There are stories that endure because they entertain. And there are stories that endure because they reveal something essential about what it means to be human. Among the oldest and most profound of such stories is the Iliad, a work that has echoed across centuries, not merely for its depictions of war, but for its deep and often unsettling understanding of the human heart. To approach this story properly, one must first understand that it does not attempt to tell the entire tale of the Trojan War. That war, the long, devastating conflict between the Greeks and the people of Troy, extends far beyond the boundaries of the poem itself. Instead, the Iliad focuses on a single, intense period near the end of the war, centering on the anger of Achilles' war. Yet within that narrow focus, it captures the full emotional weight of the larger tragedy: pride that refuses to yield, love that cannot protect, and grief that reshapes those who carry it. Long before the armies gathered and the ships crossed the sea, the origins of the war were already taking shape in quieter, more personal choices. At the center of this beginning stood Paris, a prince of Troy, and Helen of Troy, whose beauty was said to be unmatched in all the world. Helen was already the wife of Menelaus, and yet she was taken to Troy, whether by persuasion, desire, or fate. The stories differ. What remains constant is the consequence. To the Greek kings, this act was not merely a personal betrayal, but a public humiliation, one that demanded a response. Menelaus turned to his brother, Agamemnon, and together they summoned an alliance of warriors and rulers. Ships were gathered, oaths were invoked, and the Greek world mobilized itself for war. Yet even at this early stage, it becomes clear that the conflict cannot be explained by a single act alone. Wars do not endure for years because of one person or one decision. They endure because pride refuses to bend, because honor becomes entangled with identity, and because those who lead are often unable or unwilling to step back from the edge. And so the war began, not only for Helen, but for something far more difficult to resolve: the need to be vindicated, to be remembered, and to avoid the humiliation that seemed worse than death. Within Troy, life continued under the shadow of this approaching storm. It is easy to imagine the city only in terms of its walls, strong, towering, and defiant. But behind those walls lived people whose lives were as fragile as those of any age. There were families who woke each morning hoping for news that their loved ones had survived the latest battle. There were mothers who watched their sons leave the city gates, uncertain whether they would return. There were quiet evenings filled not with peace, but with the heavy silence of waiting. At the center of this world stood Priam, an aging king, whose strength lay not in conquest, but in endurance.